Hi, and welcome to 647. 6 stories for 7 a.m. because there's a famine of truth in our land, and it's not letting up. And this is your quick news fix, and the truth starts now. Well, it's Hump Day. It's Wednesday. I don't know how many of you saw the ceremony yesterday, about 5 p.m. Charlie Kirk's birthday. Would have been 32 today or yesterday, and he received the Medal of Freedom from President Trump posthumously, given to his wife, Erica. And once again, Erica just gave a tremendously motivating and emotional speech. And the whole thing is still very upsetting to see this family lose its leadership, to see the Turning Point USA lose its visionary. And it's also upsetting because when we say there's a famine of truth, there's a famine of truth regarding how Charlie was killed. And once again, I don't know why, but our government is engaging in fiction. On the front end is Charlie Kirk, and on the back end, they're uncovering all these documents. Russia's delivering documents as we speak to explain how the CIA killed President Kennedy. And that's been covered up for decades. And again, it's always, you can't handle the truth. So we give you some Disneyfication of what you all saw with your own eyes. So I don't know. I don't want to be a downer about all that, but that's why 647 exists, because they don't think we can handle the truth, and they make it almost impossible to find the truth. And believe it or not, it's harder and harder to find that out. The web is worse than it was under Biden. So that's our friends in Silicon Valley, and Trump needs to kick the ever-loving crap out of them. And I don't know, this threat of AI is why they're treated with kid gloves, but at what cost? So, all right, no topics today. It's take one, and along this theme, multiple airports refuse to play Kristi Noem's video that blames Democrats for the government shutdown. So several major U.S. airports, let's note where they are: Las Vegas, Harry Reid International, Portland International, Seattle Tacoma International, Charlotte Douglas International Airport, and 3 in New York City, right? LaGuardia, JFK, and Newark. They're refusing to play the video of Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, in which she blames Democrats for the federal government shutdown. The dispute highlights the remarkable push by the Department of Homeland Security to insert a political message into the airport security experience that virtually every air traveler must go through. Why would she do that? Because the Republicans passed a clean CR that would have kept the government open, and the Democrats said, no, we won't pass that unless you give us a $1.5 trillion cutout so that we can, and then the rest of it's nonsense. It's basically so that they can fund their campaign for the midterms and pay for cheating on the election. And it's not about taking care of immigrants. They've already got the immigrants here. They've already got the infrastructure to fill out ballots with all the immigrant names. So this is all completely dishonest. The video released last week and first obtained by Fox News is intended to play at security lines, with Noem stating it's the TSA's top priority to make sure that you have the most pleasant and efficient airport experience as possible while we keep you safe. She also says, however, Democrats in Congress refuse to fund the federal government, and because of this, many of our operations are impacted, and most of our TSA employees are working without pay. You'd think people would want to know that. Airport officials have cited a variety of reasons for refusing to play the video, from its political content to a potential violation of federal law. That's all lawyer speak. If Biden wanted to say that stuff, they'd play it all day long on high volume. All right, take two. MSNBC's Nicole Wallace. Trump's wildly unpopular mass deportation is fracturing MAGA. Okay, why would she come out and say that? Because this is the theme of raising doubt that they're going to use, the legacy media and the Brotherhood of Benevolent Billionaires that run the internet. So if you go on the internet and say, what percentage of MAGA is angry about Trump's deportation of immigrants? You can't find anything. All you can do is find page after page of stories about how America is blaming Republicans for this. So here's how Nicole describes the situation. Monday on MSNBC's Deadline, Nicole Wallace claimed President Donald Trump's MAGA coalition was being fractured by his wildly unpopular mass deportation scheme. So they're targeting low information voters and low information voters in MAGA to believe that everything's coming apart in a week where Trump couldn't be more dominant globally. Wallace said if Donald Trump's political power lies in being able to convince his supporters of anything that and everything, then loud public dissent from inside his coalition, from prominent MAGA influencers, might be the thing that will melt his carefully crafted alternative fact-based reality faster than the Wicked Witch of the West in The Wizard of Oz. And that is exactly what is starting to happen with his brutal, ugly, clunky, wildly unpopular mass deportation scheme. The sight and the sound and the smells of heavily armed federal agents sweeping up people with no criminal records, everyone from grandmas to kids, with arrests everywhere from outside of schools to outside of bakeries, even to a Marine base. Those sights and sounds are proving to be too much for arguably the most influential podcaster in the MAGA adjacent universe, Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is not MAGA, okay? He's not even a conservative. So the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, Rogan said, the way it looks is horrific. It looks when you're just arresting people in front of their kids and just normal, regular people that have been there for 20 years. Everybody who has a heart can get along with that. Everybody who has a heart sees that and goes, that can't be right. That can't be right. That can't be the only way to do this. Wallace said he's not alone. Disapproval and unease with Trump's mass deportation scheme extends to some of Trump's most diehard supporters as well. So this is a theme that they're going to develop, and you're going to hear it and see it over and over and over again. MAGA is imploding over the deportation of illegal immigrants, okay? And then they bifurcate that group and say, well, there's the ones who were convicted criminals and there's the ones who just came in illegally. ICE makes no distinction. If you didn't come here legally, you're out. That's it. So just to look at the fact that this is a manufactured fiction, I looked at a lefty poll, which is Harvard-Harris, and their poll last week said 78% of registered voters support the deportation of criminals, okay, criminal aliens, and 56% support the deportation of people who are just here illegally. So Nicole is full of it, and the legacy media has not learned their lesson. They're going to continue to misinform the electorate. They're going to continue to target the low information voter. And if you're at 647, you cannot be a low information voter. So take three. Here's the World Health Organization. Okay. All these folks, they haven't learned their lesson, and they're all setting themselves up for destruction. So the global health body's latest move fuses censorship and surveillance and pandemic preparedness into one powerful system. Okay. According to the WHO's own press release, the new EIOS 2.0 platform will identify relevant content from websites, social media, and other public sources to identify important health events. In plain English, the WHO, the World Health Organization, is giving itself permission to listen to your posts, tweets, and conversations online under the guise of pandemic prevention. This isn't about viruses anymore. It's about information control. So as somebody who was ardently researching the COVID vaccine and finding every white paper I could find, and you couldn't find anything in the United States except for maybe 2 or 3 isolated people who were being deplatformed, buried. But in Europe, there was some reasonable work being done. And I got deplatformed here for even bringing it up. So this is what they're really talking about, is if you don't support a vaccine mandate that you don't want to take, then they're going to be monitoring you and they're going to shut you down, so that there is only this monospeak that goes on. And this monospeak is going on right now regarding MAGA and deportation. They just whitewash the internet with what they want you to believe. And they're even worse. I mean, if you go now and look at the COVID vaccine and try to find objective information of it, all you will see is every page starts the same way. AI goes, it's the best thing since sliced bread. And then they're all just positive articles about it. And the truth is the exact opposite. This is so profoundly evil. And who's supposed to be watching this? I don't know. All right, take 4. The investigation into what caused a deadly explosion at a Tennessee plant could last for days. The sheriff describes the scene as hell on everybody involved. So early Friday morning explosion at Accurate Energetic Systems, a manufacturing plant for military and demolition explosives, was a devastating blast. Okay, so this company makes munitions for the U.S. military, and the entire site was just blown flat. They can't even find the smallest piece of any of the 16 people that died working that shift on Friday morning. The explosion was so powerful that it registered 1.6 on the Richter scale, a 1.6 earthquake. The blast set off smaller explosions, local officials said, and shook homes as far as 15 miles away while scattering debris over half a square mile. Accurate Energetic Systems called the incident at its facility a tragic accident in a Friday's statement. Look, could be a tragic accident, but for the last 5 years, there has been controlled and targeted demolition of infrastructure. And what do we got now? Still over 10 million people. We have no idea who they are here. And you don't think every terrorist organization in the world has people for hire? And right now we're antagonizing Putin by having Zelensky come on Friday to the White House to talk about giving him offensive missiles to fire at Putin. I think these are Spetsnaz guys that are in our country. And unfortunately, America's still asleep. They think it's not going to happen inside our borders. And this is a harbinger of things to come. Remember when they said, oh, there's no eggs? And preceding that, under Biden, a half a dozen of the largest chicken manufacturers, their whole operations burned down. Okay? How does that happen? It happens because professionals do the destruction. That's not an industrial fire that just starts in one area. So pay attention, everybody. I keep saying head on a swivel, because when the Democrats refuse to come back to the table and say, okay, we won't try to steal $1.5 trillion for our nefarious uses, we'll just sign the CR and keep everything rolling. When they won't do that, they have an alternative plan, because they know this is working against them. But they have another plan, and their plan is a violent plan, and it's going to be city by city. And that's what we have to look forward to. So, you know what? Stock up. Take 5. Shutdown information. So, Republicans passed a clean CR to keep government open, and Democrats refused to sign it. It's not more complicated than that. They refused to sign it because they wanted a 1.5 trillion with a T add-on to it, so that they could replenish all their slush funds that have been wiped out by Doge and other efforts. So while they stop the funding, Russ Vought is continuing to fire deadweight blue bureaucrat employees. He's getting his wish. He wants a smaller government. That's all working in favor of the Republicans. And Schumer keeps saying, oh, this is good for us. This is good for us. I don't think he believes that. And Trump is covering the salaries for the soldiers. He's covering the women, infant, and children, the WICS program, so they don't have that argument. And tell me how your life has been affected by this. The majority of people I know don't even notice. And that tells you that this big, bloated leviathan of a government is grossly inefficient and was only serving Democrat interests. So we need to cut all the fat out of it. But they're not just going to passively let that happen. So get ready. Trump and Office of Management and Budget Director Russ Vought launched their long-threatened shutdown related to layoffs last Friday, with Republicans calling the reductions in force financially prudent and faulting Democrats for forcing the administration's hand. But the day before, Trump said at a cabinet meeting that his administration would only cut Democrat programs, declaring that his own party's priorities wouldn't be affected by White House bean counters. That's the way it works, he said. They wanted to do this, so we'll give them a taste of their own medicine. The White House has also used the shutdown to cut billions in climate and infrastructure funding earmarked for states that voted for former Vice President Kamala Harris in last year's election. Go Trump. All right, in our arms study, we got to put the AG from New York, Letitia James, the legacy media constantly pushing, oh, this is just Trump's retribution. He's after her. And all she did was make a clerical error on one page of one mortgage document. That's an absolute lie. So now today, turns out at one of these properties, she's got a bunch of these properties. She's got 23 different mortgage applications that are all fraudulent, starting with the first one where she asked her father to pose as her husband so that she could qualify for the mortgage with his come added to hers. This chick out of the gate has been nothing but fraud and theft. So now they find out in her Virginia property, another primary residence, which is actually a rental for her, a fugitive relative, a grand niece by the name of Nakia Thompson, and her 3 children are living in this home in Virginia, and she is a fugitive from the Department of Justice in Virginia because she did not finish her parole. So Letitia's hiding a fugitive in a property that is not her primary residence. And this is going to be like watching a dominoes game. She's going to get nailed so many different ways. And how could somebody think they're going to get away with this? There's only one way, right? The reprobate mind, broken-mindedness. Absolutely. You just think you can get away with anything. And it's not the case. And you don't want to get away with anything. This is hump day. You're going over the top today. And then it's going to be clear sailing all the way through the weekend. And so we want to get that same glide slope going tomorrow. And the way we do it is to ask you for help. We want you to share us. We want you to like us. We want you to make comments, especially on YouTube. And we want you to push us out to your friends. And you've been doing a great job because the web engineer tells me 20% or better each month. It's growing. And the math of that is just about patience. I don't like patience, but what can I do? I have to live with it. And because I don't have very much, and my grandmother told me that early on, that my problem is patience, I need a relationship with a loving Father in heaven who will teach me how to be patient. And so he'll teach you a bunch of things too. All you have to do is ask him. So I'm asking him right now, dear God, please help me to be patient as we grow this 647 operation and the ministry of trust and obey. And please reach out your arms, spread them over all of these folks, and bless them going into Wednesday and getting over the hump of this week. And absolutely, God bless you and thank you for tuning in. Take care.